Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you from wherever you are joining in this world or in the world. My name is Godwin Agbokan. I can see the room filling up very quickly. And I can see our familiar faces, our friends and partners from around the world joining. Thank you very much for making it the time to join today's session. We're very grateful to have you here today. Thank you very much. We have a very interesting webinar session planned for today, but I would just want to give the room a few more minutes to get filled up as I see a lot of people joining still. We have a great webinar session lined up today and an excellent speaker, if I may say so myself, to deliver today's session. If you're just joining us, thank you very much for joining today's session. We are very, very honored that you were able to make time in your afternoon to join us for today's session. So thank you very much. Just a bit of background. This webinar is organized by the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria, with the support, the absolutely enormous support of Siemens Energy. This webinar was organized to promote the topic of sustainability in Nigeria, because we are organizing the 9th edition of the German-Nigerian Business Forum in Nigeria, in Lagos, starting from the 9th to the 11th of November as a hybrid event. So it's going to be both on-site and online. So you have the opportunity to join online and as well to join on-site as well. Now, one of our platinum sponsors and partners, Siemens Energy, wanted us to talk about the topic of sustainability. And as we were talking about, what themes and what topics that we should have in this discussion around sustainability, we realized that there was a certain gap, right? There's so much that we need to have in that discussion. There's so much that we need to include in that discussion, right? That would naturally be left out because sustainability is so wide, it's so broad, right? And we don't want to leave any key themes or key aspects out of that discussion. We want to include as much as possible in that discussion. So we asked ourselves, how can we get as many stakeholders as possible to give us, their ideas about sustainability and what they think we should include about in the discussions around sustainability? What should be the key themes that we should discuss in our discussions at the German-Nigerian Business Forum in the discussions around sustainability? And then we decided that the best way to get stakeholders excited about the topic already, to get them informed about the topic already, is to organize a series of webinars leading up to the German-Nigerian Business Forum in November. And that is why today's session has been organized. So we thank you very much today for joining today's session. Today's session is titled Pathways to Drive the Energy Transition in Nigeria. And our speaker today is from Siemens Energy Africa. Her name is Mfolu Dalo. She was appointed as the Sustainability Champion for Africa for Siemens Energy on October 1st, 2021. Incidentally, Nigeria's Independence Day, so that is a good sign already. Ufo is based in South Africa, and she's responsible for shaping the sustainability strategy for Africa, region Africa, and developing sustainability opportunities to meet the challenges of the energy transition. She's passionate about Africa's energy transition journey, with a major focus in developing individual roadmaps for African countries, taking into consideration local drivers and country boundary conditions. Mfo started her career with Siemens in 2011 and has held multiple roles within the organization throughout the years, In 2020, she was appointed head of sales for generation services in South Africa and service engineer between 2011 and 2020. She holds a postgraduate diploma in management practice and a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and Mechanical Energy. In her spare time, she loves spending time with her husband and daughter, and she's also a running enthusiast which is her perfect moment for reflection. So thank you everyone for joining. Before Umfo starts her presentation, we thought it will be interesting for you to watch a video that would sort of introduce the topic that we'll be discussing today. If I can find it, I will see. Here we go. And so I want to start this webinar session by playing this video for you to get you a bit excited about what Info will be discussing today. Okay, that is our sponsor for today's webinar, Siemens Energy. So with that, I would like to invite Info to tell us about what the pathways that we can take to drive the clean energy transition in Nigeria. Info?
Thank you, Godwin, for a great introduction and a warm welcome. And good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honor to be participating on this pre-webinar warming up for the 9th German-Nigeria Business Forum. As Godwin has already introduced me, I am Mpolodaro, and I am passionate about environmental sustainability with specific focus on Africa. And I believe the actions we take now will determine our future. I am excited for the opportunity to be sharing ideas on pathways to drive energy transition in Nigeria. And I look forward to working with you to develop individual sustainability roadmap, taking into consideration our local drivers and boundaries. I am proud to be part of the Siemens Energy team, which is 100% committed to support the customer to transition to sustainable world while living our purpose of energizing the society. Just to give a bit of intro on the history of our company. Siemens Energy was formed in 2020, and the company is a global spin-off from our parent Siemens AG gas and power business, covering oil and gas, power generation, and power transmission. We have over 150 years of global experience in the energy value chain. Now, it will also be interesting to know that Siemens Energy has a very strong presence in Nigeria, as I will show you on the next slide. So Siemens Nigeria provides original equipment manufacturer services, and we have our presence of over 50 years with a local head office, which is based in Lagos. And we also have a one-stop service shop in Port Harcourt. Our service portfolio ranges from compressors to all rotating equipments, providing support to Nigeria oil and gas industry, mining, your food beverage industry, the power sectors, and other industries. We do have a good track record with success project stories like Azura, a 459 megawatt IPP. We have a Geregu 1 power plant, which is a 414 megawatt, and then a Geregu 2 power plant, which is a 434 megawatt, among many other projects. And for us, most importantly, we do recognize the importance of a long-term partnership, and currently are driving the Presidential Power Initiative with the federal government of Nigeria. Now, looking at climate change itself, of which I will show you on the next slide. What we see is that climate change is real, and it affects all of us. It does not choose whether you're poor or rich. There is evidence of extreme weather conditions worldwide. For example, in South Africa, we are experiencing frequent drought conditions. Nigeria, it has suffered from floods, leaving 100,000 victims. Canada as well, it has had extreme heat waves situation, leaving a number of casualties. Now, with reference to what was indicated by the International Energy Agency, is that even though Africa is a minor contributor to greenhouse gas emission, it is the most vulnerable continent due to our limited cooling infrastructure. So with that, in my view, we must act now and start with those baby steps. Now, in terms of the big measures to fight climate change, it is to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. If we do nothing, the global surface temperature will increase to 4 to 5 degrees, which will be devastating on the weather conditions. And due to this pressure, Paris Agreement was put in place for interested countries to commit on actions to cap the global surface temperature. The agreement is to cap the global surface temperature at 1.5 to 2 degrees. However, this will require tremendous efforts to decarbonize and to completely transform the way we generate energy and our industrial business processes as well. As it can be seen on the right-hand side, Nigeria is participating in the Paris Agreement with commitments Sorry, Godwin, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, my network took a dip. I guess this is one of the beauty of this technology.
I think you can continue from where you talked about Nigeria's commitments under the Paris Agreement.
Okay, I will continue from there. So as I had mentioned, Nigeria is participating in the Paris Agreement with commitments like flaring down, building of the grid solar system, increasing efficiency. And the question maybe that we should be asking is that since this Paris Agreement was entered in 2015, where exactly is Nigeria when it comes to these commitments? Now, looking at the next slide. So electricity is an important pillar to our economy. However, we have gaps that needs addressing. The International Energy Agency indicates that as of 2019, about 600 people in Africa do not have access to electricity. The population is growing, and so is the energy demand. And we are seeing that the population without electricity is also tremendously growing. This needs to be counterbalanced by this pressing needs to sustainable solution. However, we need to make sure that people have access to electricity and industrial goods, which is important for the world. Everyone in the world wants to be wants to have that wealth and to move away from the poverty. We cannot deny the fact that currently our power supply is not reliable. I have personally experienced frequent power cuts in South Africa, and even this week I was scheduled for power cuts. So no wonder my internet every now and then it keeps on cutting as well. And the question is the situation in Nigeria any different to what we're experiencing in South Africa? There seem to be some commonality in what we are going through. On the right-hand side of the picture of the slide, we have a good illustration of the situation, showing the frequency use of the backup generators, which is counterproductive to high efficiency production needed to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions and to decarbonize the society. We actually don't see this situation as a target conflict, but rather an opportunity for us to co-create solutions. And Siemens Energy have the necessary tools and the possibilities to lead the energy transition journey with you. We are seeing more countries, governments committing to net zero targets and reducing committing to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. The obvious one being the European Union and the parts of the United States. And now we're also seeing China starting to give net zero targets. In Africa, South Africa, Namibia, and Malawi, they now have the net zero targets. Even though Nigeria does not have a net zero target, the government has pledged to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2030. And what we are seeing as well is that most of the countries' targets are for year 2050. We also see companies now looking at ambitious targets, right? And this gives a positive indication that the sustainability topic is being taken seriously. On the right-hand side, it is evident that there is push to act. More countries are implementing the emission tax system. We are seeing big investors like BlackRock putting guidelines on where they will invest. And it is clear that they are shifting into more and more support on the sustainability projects. And one of the key guideline points as well is the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. And this will continue to influence the investors' guideline to more on clean energy. To add to this pressure, the European Union is currently discussing the carbon border adjustment mechanism. What this means is that if customers are producing energy intensive products with carbon footprint outside Europe and want to import to Europe, they will have to pay tax. If this is to be implemented, it will put even more pressure to countries that want to trade with Europe to decarbonize their production. Now, looking back at home at Siemens Energy, are we committed to sustainability targets? Are we really walking the talk? And my answer is yes, we are. And in order to ensure maximum effectiveness, we have prioritized the 5 sustainability development goals to which we have the highest and the most direct impact. And that being the gender equality, the affordability and clean energy, the decent work and economic growth, the industry innovation and infrastructure, and last but not least, the climate change. We have developed sustainability programs which will be implemented across the organization as part of the Energy of Tomorrow program. And with reference to specific targets, we are very ambitious and we want to be climate neutral by 2030. We are also targeting in the next 2 years to have 100% green electricity on the operations of our own equipment. And to top on that, we are committed to have 25% of the women in the top leadership functions by 2025. And most importantly, we don't compromise on safety. We want to be a safety leader in our industry. To add to this, we have sustainability champion roles in different regions. And this just shows our commitment that we want to prioritize these sustainability topics. And I am also a good example. Now, I was recently appointed as the sustainability champion for Region Africa. Looking at this map, the light purple to dark purple areas, those are the countries where it will be cheaper to produce renewable energy. Africa can be the leading producer and the exporter for future energy. So that's just important to note. So what can Siemens Energy do in particular to support the energy transition journey? There are many avenues that can be explored. Looking at decarbonization of industrial processes, we can offer modernization and upgrades to your existing operations. On the heat utilization side, there's also a lot of potential for Africa. For example, for open cycle gas turbines, on the diesel engine side and the process industry side, Siemens has a wide range of portfolio and competencies to create a good solution to make use of the waste heat. For example, we do have capabilities of reusing the waste heat to produce electricity. On the process side, we have the high temperature heat pump solution where we can actually heat up the water from 70 to 90 degrees to 150 to 200 degrees and reuse it in the process. We also have a wide range of carbon dioxide compression solution. On the electrification side of things, we do have solutions like your power grids and the battery storage solution. We also do have optimization solutions as well as hydrogen solutions, offering solutions like electrolyzers called, we actually have a product called Caesar. We can also support on the hydrogen production where we can really add value on the chemical and the gas customer. We also have compression solutions for hydrogen. As you can see, the offering, it does range and it can be tailor-made to suit your needs. And our technical team are available to actually help you to walk through that discovery as to what exactly will be the most suitable solution for your situation. Now, looking at the sustainability path, of which I will show you on the next slide, there are paths that can be adopted. We can help with the energy efficiency solution. And again, this can be done through the modernization of equipment that you already have. We also do have the flaring down solutions. We do have energy storage and other solutions that we can explore as well. Now, looking at the second pillar, we do have a variety of fuel shift solution, which can actually cover your low carbon compression, your hydrogen, and the other solutions that are also listed here as well. On the third pillar, our focus is we can actually focus on the optimized operation in electrification as well as digital transformation, the power grids, and so on. So the question is, yes, I'm presenting very high level, but what are the real examples that we can share? So I actually invite you to join my colleague, Dries Goossens, on the 21st of October webinar. There is a webinar that will be scheduled. He will focus on the detailed roadmap that can be adopted for flaring down. And here he will really go into the technical details of how can one map that journey. Now, to summarize my story, sustainability is a hot topic that we should be addressing. It is not a one-size-fits-all. We have to collaborate with one another and discover the most suitable roadmaps that can actually be can be adopted for your situation. And Siemens Energy does have quite a wide range of pathways that we can engage in more detail to explore together as to what will be the most suitable way to map your energy transition journey. I think one thing that we have to acknowledge is that we have to start somewhere, and baby steps are okay to get us to where we want to be. And I would like to leave you with a quote by Hindoa Brahim, which says, now I have a window now we have a window of opportunity regarding climate change, but if we do not act now, Africa will reach a point of no return. So should you require our support, please do feel free to reach out. And yeah, now I will actually open the question and answers, of which I will actually invite my colleagues to join me on this discussion. And thank you for listening through.
I was just talking. Thank you very much, Mvo, for such a very interesting and broad-based, very high-level presentation that introduced three main pillars for the three main pathways for the transition to clean energy: efficient energy resources, the fuel shift, and optimizing operations. I think those are three basic, like three broad categories in which we can say if we are going to achieve sustainability, it will have to include a combination of something from these three pillars. For each economy, or it could be everything, it could be a few things. For each country, you need to pick out one or two or three or four things within each pillar that works for you, and then use that to drive your clean energy transition. So I think that's a very important take away from this webinar. And I will invite everyone to ask questions. We have a few questions already. I think I will start with one question that came in. What will Nigeria do about the abundance of its gas? As in, I think the question is, what should Nigeria do? We have so much gas, and everyone in the world is talking about, clean energy, clean energy. What should we do about it? Should we leave the gas in the ground? If we want to develop, what are we going to do?
No, thanks for that question, Godwin. It's a very relevant question, and we have to always acknowledge the situation that we're in, right? So the way I see it, it is a journey, right? And we have to start somewhere, and somehow we need to find the best way to transition. So it's definitely not let's leave it and just pack our bags and move to the other side, right? So what we are seeing as well is that according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, right? Hydrogen and its derivatives could present 12% of the final energy use by 2050. That's ahead, right? So obviously we need to walk together, right? We cannot just start by flying there. And with 2/3 coming from renewable resources, right? And so fossil fuels will continue to present a much larger share up until it helps us to get where we want to go, right? So I think the most important message for me is that we need to make this fossil fuel cleaner, right? We need to build a bridge to green hydrogen. And yes, it is a process. So definitely it won't be a matter of just let's leave it as well. And even on the oil and coal, it continued to present a largest share of global energy mix, right? At 31% to 27% respectively, right? In 2020. So just expanding the natural gas development will have a significant impact on the global emissions. And we can already see this picture as well if we to reference to what's happening in the United States, where it has surpassed all the other sources, including coal, right? So yeah, I think the key message here is that it is a journey. We cannot just leave what we have and move on. However, we can transition through digestible steps.
So I guess we should borrow a leaf from the United States. Even though they have a clean energy transition that they are making, they also have conventional fossil fuel energy still plays an important role even in their energy transition. So I think that is an important answer. Okay, so how can Siemens Energy, well, we've talked mainly now about how an economy can achieve that energy transition. So how can we then, how can a customer, how can you, Siemens Energy, support a customer on its own energy transition journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another great question as well, Godwin. I think one thing that we have to acknowledge first is that we have different journeys, right? Depending on where we are, right? Depending on which country we are based at as well, right? So one will have to really enter into a co-creation mode, right, with the customer and discover as to what exactly are the driver within that industry, right? What are the constraints within that industry, be it country, right? And then from there, really work together with the customer to develop a roadmap, right? And to really identify as well on those pillars, what combination should we be picking to really come up with a solution that at the end of the day, it will have shared benefit between ourselves as well as the customer. It is no longer about, I am the expert. If you're saying you want, I'm just giving an example, a gas turbine, I must just go and design a gas turbine for you, or tell you that this is the best gas turbine for you. Somehow we need to have that two-way exchange and adjust where necessary to ensure that at the end of the day, we have the best solution that will suit the customer need.
So because I'm a food enthusiast, right? I like food a lot. As you were talking, I was imagining a pizza. You know, how you want to make a pizza, you have different toppings. You want to have tomatoes, you want to have, salami, you want to have pastrami, you want to have all these different things on it. So you can, so what your answer is essentially is that you can make a customized pizza for each customer's energy transition journey. So I'm taking it like that.
That's just a great example to complement what I've just said. That's exactly what we're saying.
Exactly. So suppose a customer wants to go on this journey, right? What are the funding opportunities or the funding avenues that are available for such sustainability projects? What are the such sources? And if you can you also share some success stories where some of these things have, actually been, this theory has actually come to life, where we can, point to?
Yeah, so what we are seeing, Godwin, is that there's definitely pressure to move to cleaner energy. We are seeing bigger institutions, be it the banks or the investors, right, really changing their guideline to really focus on sustainability projects, right? I think there are a number of institutions, the likes of Standard Bank, they have come openly to say, we are not going to support any future coal projects as such, right? So I think just by mentioning that, it really gives an incentive to a customer to explore on sustainability projects, because it means that now if you're actually approaching an institution with that sustainability project, the chances of you getting the funding are actually high, right? So what we have also seen as well is that because of the complexity of the topic as well, right? Projects, they actually get treated case by case as well. So it becomes easier to engage in this discussion once there is an opportunity that one is exploring, right? And then from there, then that's when one can now see what will be the best funding model. However, we do work very closely. We actually, even within Siemens Energy, we do have a division that purely looks at such kind of advice. And when there is such an opportunity, we will actually bring them in, and then they will advise the best way forth as to how should we go about it. But definitely there are funding opportunities there, but it becomes easier once one has an opportunity to define as to which way to go.
I think that more and more we're seeing that, play out, especially in Africa. Multinational organizations and banks, especially, they are looking at increasing their sustainability bona fides and reducing their carbon footprint with sound financials, right, to a multinational or to a bank to say, this project will help reduce your carbon footprint, or will help reduce your customers' carbon footprint. And it will also encourage them to increase the flow of financing to these projects as they try to meet their own ESG criteria. So I think that's a good thing to keep note on as the market evolves. One more question here. There's several other questions. Sorry, not one more. Is the EU carbon tax on additional import tariff? Okay. Is the EU's carbon tax an additional import tariff for a poorly globally competitive African industry? Shouldn't Africa be exempted? I'm thinking he was referring to the point where you talked about cross-border, where you talk that Europe is driving cross-border carbon adjustments mechanisms. So he's asking, don't you think that this is an additional tax on African industry that is already not globally competitive?
Yeah, so maybe just to go back on that point, this carbon adjustment tax that I spoke of, it is something which is under adjustment. Yes, it will seem like a double tax, but I think here the key message is that there is really a strong drive to say decarbonize your products, right? So through this double penalty, then somehow one will have to find creative ways to make sure that they are coming up with sustainable solution. So yes, he is right in saying it is a double taxation, but yes, on the other hand as well, there is that hefty pain that one must feel to move from their comfort zone to this new phase of transitioning, right, to a cleaner energy. And I think it will even get even more heavy, even within our countries as well. That's just my view.
I think decarbonizing supply chains is an important part of any sustainability journey, because if we are to actually ensure that the products that we use in our daily everyday lives actually have as minimal effect on the environment as possible, then we should all look to our supply chains to ensure that throughout the value creation for that product, we are actually causing the least harm to the environment. It is an important aspect. We agree that the African market is not globally competitive as at today, but this is something that would affect the entire world eventually. So it's good that Africa gets ahead of this. African suppliers to EU companies get ahead of this and as well start to look at their own supply chains as well to make them sustainable in the future. So I completely agree with you. Another question here is asking, also far well addressed, but what about public enlightenment as it's been done at the onset, for example, in the case of the energy transition in Germany? So I think he's trying to ask us to compare how badly we are doing in terms of public enlightenment with in Africa to the public enlightenment in Germany for their own clean energy transition, the Energiewende.
I think that's actually a very good question, and something that I would definitely also take it as a takeaway, because I think there's definitely a room of improvement when it comes to enlightenment. So very, very good point. I will definitely take that home.
Okay. Another question is there any focus on transforming dirty assets to clean assets, i.e. transforming legacy assets? I think you mentioned something about that, modernizing existing equipment. Does that include some sort of retrofitting in your
Yeah. So if I am to use one of the examples in South Africa, right? As most of you may be aware, our fleet, they're mostly fossil power, right? And most of their plants, they have passed the mid-age already, right? So as it stands, we do have the oldest power stations which are about to retire, right? There are 4 stations, and basically those 4 stations have been identified as potential stations to be used for repurposing purpose, right? So meaning instead of just decommissioning it, you will actually change it's either you'll change the fuel input, or you will completely install maybe your gas turbine and so forth. So there are very high level ideas around that. So yes, there is also a possibility of shifting the fuel input, where you can change from coal to gas, but obviously then you have to solve the challenge of the gas line, right? So that's just one example. We also do have examples where, yes, you can basically just retrofit with a more efficient system, right? As part of the mods and upgrade. So yes, those options are available. And what will happen is that if you're interested in a solution like that, again, it will be more of a discovery approach, where basically we assess where you are, what kind of a plant do you have, and how do we now make it more efficient, less emissions. So yes, there is a possibility.
There is possibility for that. So I think tied to that is, which energy transition projects is Siemens Energy involved in Nigeria at the moment?
I think that question, I will actually pass it to Karen. I believe he is on the call.
Let me allow Kieran to talk. ask him to unmute. Kieran, if you can hear us, can you unmute your microphone?
Oh, there we go. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, can you repeat the question again? Because I didn't quite hear it on my speaker here. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the question goes, which energy transition projects is Siemens Energy involved in Nigeria at the moment?
Oh, wow, very good question. Particularly on projects related around probably decarbonization around oil and gas, so optimization of, I think, some gas turbine operations, looking at, say, on LNG, boil-off gas and capturing of methane releases and minimization of methane releases. I think that would be areas where we're looking at right now. Others, I think, are very early in the early stages where, again, where Umfo mentioned about the discovery phase with customers, where we're looking at how to work on reducing methane emissions on some of the gas projects, looking at optimization of manpower on projects. And for example, it's really, and as Umfo mentioned, they're working together with the customers to look at the operations as they are today and working at how we can improve on those. Before it was mainly around energy efficiency, but now it's also around methane, CO2, greenhouse gases emissions. So those, I think, are the key areas, and where we're obviously looking for more of those as well to work on.
Okay, thank you very much, Kieran. I think a key takeaway from your description is that, I mean, there are projects that you are working on across in Nigeria that fall across those three pillars that Umfo mentioned in her presentation, and even more, because I hear you mention optimization of manpower. Mm-hmm. That is something that is not really talked about too as contributing to the carbon footprint of a project, but this is also an area that you're also looking at. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks a lot, Kieran. Another question goes, a major driver of sustainable energy in developed countries is government regulations. Since we don't have that in most parts of Africa, cost competitiveness is a major downside when considering sustainability. How can we address the cost topic while we wait for regulations to catch up?
A very good question as well, and a very tough one as well, right? So the way I see it, there should be a continuous dialogue, right, between different stakeholders. We are not moving as fast as we would like to. However, I think we must comment that there are ongoing discussions, right, in terms of the policy side of things, the regulation side of things. So the way I see it, I think, again, it's a joint effort where different stakeholders, the government needs to be pulled in. We first need to establish where we are. We need to somehow be on the same wavelength. So I think that's really important. We do have active external parties, be it on the agent side of things, be it on the climate ambassadors, for the lack of better word, right? So the way I see it, we should be continuing with that continuous dialogue with different stakeholders or relevant stakeholders to get to a position where at least there is some sort of a roadmap as to how we should be approaching it. But yes, it's a very good question and a very valid one that one needs to also reflect as to what are the ways. But I think in terms of the key, it's we need different key stakeholders to engage on this kind of discussions.
So the solution is keep talking.
We have to talk, but obviously it doesn't help to just talk forever, right? Yeah. So we need to talk and at the same time be taking those baby steps in terms of actions.
Okay, keep talking while taking baby steps. Got it. What is Siemens Energy doing to ensure the necessary skills for the transition are developed and available locally?
Another good question as well. So maybe just to speak for my company, there are definitely programs that we are running to ensure that there is reskilling, right? When it comes to our new technologies that we are bringing in, right? And I think other companies as well, they are already thinking around that as well, as to how do we do reskilling, right? But I think in terms of the scope, we definitely still have a long way, right? We are also seeing initiatives as well, where we are partnering with the institutions as well, because they also become the vital role in terms of their academic offering. It cannot just be traditional. Somehow now it needs to encompass these new technologies that we are working on. So for Siemens Energy South Africa as well, we've just signed a memorandum of understanding with the VETS Business School, and again is to really to try to address this gap of reskilling, right? As to how do we now make sure that we are geared up on this new technology that we're talking of. So there is a number of initiatives that I believe that companies as well as the government and the institution are taking to bridge this gap.
I hope it means that you have a Siemens Academy in all your countries where you are actually pushing these topics.
We definitely have an in-house power academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Another point is, just to add to the first question and answer, a good use of natural gas for hydrogen production, which is a feedstock for many industries, would be applying carbon capture and utilization, storage, or even natural gas cracking, which produces no CO2. These will serve as transitional technologies towards sustainability and greener technologies. I think this alludes to your first answer, the answer to the first question that you gave, where you said that conventional energies can still play a role even as we make that transition to clean energy. Another question goes, does Siemens Energy offer any currently working carbon capture solutions in Africa?
Again, I'll pass this one to Karen.
Okay. Can you still hear me there?
Yes, we can, Karen.
Okay, yeah, as you say, it's a big carbon capture and storage. This is a transition, as you say, using hydrocarbons to produce blue hydrogen. We as Siemens Energy don't have our own in-house CO2 removal process technology. We work with others which do that. What we do is we are the compression. Once you've actually extracted the CO2, then you need to move it generally into a depleted field or reservoir. And that's where we come into play on the compression side. Yeah. So, but we're working on, I don't know actually necessarily in Nigeria or Africa, but there's particularly where I'm sitting right now in the UK, there's a number of projects using methane to produce hydrogen through the traditional processes, carbon capture, and then sequestration into existing fields. And that will be an increasing one, and will be interesting to see in Nigeria specifically, where you have still a lot of natural gas, how we could look at that as well. Yep. I mean, it's been around for a long time, using CO2 for enhanced oil recovery. And now, so the technology is there, the experience is there, and we can deploy it in a different way.
Excellent. I hope this answers your question. Next question goes, what is the plan for Nigeria has for landfill and biogas power? I don't think this is the right forum for that, I guess, Mfo and Kieran.
Godwin, by the way, you froze for a bit and I see a signal someone's internet is unstable, so you'll have to rewind a bit.
Okay, I also, yes. The the question here that goes, what is the plan Nigeria has for landfill and biogas power? I think does not apply to this forum. I think we have another forum for that, and I hope the person who asked this question can join us for that forum. The last question we have here is, in fuel shift, how far is hydrogen technology adaptable in Africa? Can you share more about the fuel shift options by Siemens for the food industry?
Good one. So I've got a chemical example, but Karen maybe has got a food one, and then I will just share some experience of what we're driving in South Africa.
Yeah, I was going to say food. That's a new one to me. I haven't seen any opportunities for hydrogen with food. Very much, we're seeing it as a use for energy. You know, to burn it in, for example, one particular one I've seen right now is on glass as an alternative fuel. We're working very much on getting hydrogen-ready gas turbines. So increasing blends of hydrogen into gas turbines with natural gas, with the objective to be 100% hydrogen ready by 2030. Other areas, of course, are, you know, as an energy source in, what, trying to think, you know, heating, ventilation, for example, where you have power. Food, I don't know. Where we are seeing, of course, is the use of CO2 in food production, either in beverages or, you know, capturing CO2 and using it in enhanced food production. But hydrogen in food, I haven't seen anything yet. And I don't know if you have, or move over to more in the chemical side of things, like, I guess, methanol production, for example. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I also don't have an example on the food side.
Or ammonia, of course. I mean, ammonia is the next step as a carrier for hydrogen, and ammonia then can be used as a fertilizer to, you know, enhance food production, if that's the thing. So we're seeing a lot of work taking either green hydrogen produced from renewables or blue hydrogen from hydrocarbons and carbon capture to produce ammonia, which then can be either used as a carrier for hydrogen and then split back into you know, nitrogen and hydrogen, or used into fertilizer production to decarbonize fertilizer production for you know, supporting the agricultural industry, for example.
And maybe just to add on what Karen has covered, I think what's also important to note, and I covered it very high level, is that what we're seeing is that when we are looking at Africa, there's a lot of potential for it to become the clean energy exporter for the future, right? So I think we are definitely well positioned to fast track the clean energy journey, and it will become cheaper as time goes on.
I think that's what we see with every new technology in the energy space. It's first very expensive, and over time, we then have those cost reductions built in as more people start to increase supply. So I think at that point that will happen. But the question he asks is, how far is hydrogen technology adaptable in Africa? And I think the answer is, I mean, hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. It's everywhere. And I think it has a good opportunity here in Africa, mainly because for most of the other energy sources, hydrogen itself is not an energy source, but if you look at other energy sources, they have just one route. If it's fossil fuels, you have to drill the ground to get fossil fuels. But for hydrogen, there are several routes that can achieve the same objective of producing hydrogen. You know, you could get it from green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, turquoise hydrogen, gray hydrogen. You use different processes to get the hydrogen. And you could also, carry it as a gas. You can carry it in ammonia. You can carry it in pipelines. There are different forms by which you can carry hydrogen. So it's very flexible, very adaptable for the local conditions that you have in any African country. So I think that basically answers your question, sir. With that, I think we are at the end of today's webinar. Like we said initially, this is a two-part webinar series, and a lot of your questions have been noted and will feed into that conversation that we are going to have at the German-Nigerian Business Forum, right? And we invite you to be a part of that forum. It's starting on the 9th of November to the 11th of November. Please try and go to the website.
Godwin, if you can hear me, I cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. I'm not sure if I'm the only one.
I'm sure you were not the only one. As I was saying, everyone, so thank you very much for making it today. As I said earlier, this is a two-part webinar series that is supposed to feed into the conversation that we are going to have at the German-Nigerian Business Forum, which takes place on the 9th to the 11th of November. We thank you for your questions and your contributions, because these will form a major part of the conversation that we're going to have at the German-Nigerian Business Forum. We have a very interesting lineup of ministers, permanent secretaries who will be present at the forum. So we invite you to go on the website of the German-Nigerian Business Forum to register for the event. I have put the website in the chat box. Please register for the German-Nigerian Business Forum so that we can continue this conversation at the forum. Thank you very much for making it today. The next webinar is happening next week on the 21st of October, and we look forward to having you all there as well.
Godwin, cannot hear you again, or I cannot hear you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you very much for being here today.
Now
I think that's the best I can do. Thank you very much for being here today, so I don't waste anybody more time. But please register for the German-Nigerian Business Forum. The link for the German-Nigerian Business Forum is in the chat box. I will put it up again. Did you hear that at least? Yes. Yes. Please go. You will get the recording of this webinar to be sent to everyone along with Unfo's presentation. Everyone who registered for the webinar will get a copy of the presentation as well as the recording. So thank you very much for making it today. I wish you all a very successful rest of the week. Bye.
Thank you very much, Godwin. Bye.
Bye, Karen. Bye.